Everybody ready? Good. Then let's get going. Oh, nearly forgot you guys. So undoubtedly one of the best bits of this caravan is this massive storage door, which gives access to the underneath of the rear bed. So it's a brilliant door and it's a brilliant space under there. It's absolutely cavernous. But it is over 2 meters wide, so from this side here, the side of the caravan goes all the way over to the other side, so right underneath the back here. So anything that's slid during transport, it's really difficult to get hold of if it's slid into that back corner there. And of course everything does move around a little bit. And then of course there are times when I don't want to unload absolutely everything. You know, I just want to pick one or two things, perhaps just a chair out. And so it can be a bit of a pain if everything's just shoved in here willy-nilly to squeeze it all in. So today I'm going to do a bit of an experiment, because I want to see if I can build a really lightweight set of storage drawers to make this area much more usable. And this sort of stuff's my inspiration. These super funky, mega useful sliding drawer systems, so they're usually found on those fantastic aluminium checkerboard off-road adventuring type trailers and caravans, usually made in Australia, but you sometimes see them in the US and South Africa and so on. But of course the axle on a UK caravan is much closer to the centre of the trailer itself, unlike our US counterparts and so on. And also overall the trailer itself tends to be much lighter weight, not really built for off-roading around the Australian outback, that's for sure. So I absolutely can't go cramming that huge storage area full of really heavy stuff. And I certainly can't fit any of those mega heavyweight, those locking drawer slide systems. You know, those huge ball bearing sliding rails that firefighters use on their appliances and so on. So something like that, I think it's something like 15 kilos if you want a set of those full extension slides that are about 1.5 meters long. And the way I'm thinking of designing this, I'd need 2 of those, so I can't go adding 30 kilos behind the axle here, that is for sure. You know, I certainly don't want to add that much weight onto the back of the caravan. We just end up with the caravan wagging the tow car along as we're driving along, so that's not at all safe. And so I need to think of an altogether much lighter weight, I guess probably more Heath Robinson solution to what I'm thinking of. But first off, let's get this space cleared up and get measured up. Now, as you probably see the door, so that door flap from the outside is a little raised off of the floor surface here, and there are water pipes on the opposite side that belong to the onboard tank. So the plan is to build a lightweight, as light a weight as I can get away with, wooden framework on the floor using the thinnest timber that I can manage. And then build a pair of giant, but again hopefully super lightweight drawers that will slide over that framework. And the reason I'm thinking of the framework is not only to get the drawers level so they slide in and out smoothly through that door in the side, but also if I've got that framework underneath, then it should allow air to circulate from the vents. There's an air vent in the back corner here, and air is supposed to move around inside this cupboard and then exit under the bed to aerate the whole of the caravan itself. And of course, if this is chock-a-block full of stuff, then it can't do that. So if I've got this framework in underneath, then hopefully that will allow the air to flow much more freely as well and keep the whole caravan nicely vented all year round, whilst at the same time protecting all this water pipe work. That's the plan anyway. Oh, and by the way, you've probably noticed all this trunking around here. This hides all the existing wiring and cabling and so on, so for the lights and the power and all of the rest of it, which is super helpful. It's really nice and tidy, and it just keeps it all protected, so that is great. So that's all the horizontal bits done, and now I'm actually going to put some vertical supports at the back here, and these have got at least 3 purposes that I can think of for now. So I want somewhere out of the way to be able to stash the windbreak, because we hardly ever use it, but we always carry it just in case, for example, we need to shelter an outdoor cooking zone, or actually when we were at Torafest a couple of years ago, we used it to create a guinea pig corral so that they could jump on the grass while staying safe from all the pooches that were at Torafest. And then also, if there are a couple of bits of timber back here, it will just stop stuff falling into the way of the drawers once they get pulled out through the door on the side there. And we've got a similar storage bed to this at home, so one that lifts up on gas struts, and with our lovely, should I say svelte? No, lardy arses on it. The whole framework has sagged a bit, although we have had it many years, but I certainly don't want that happening here. So I thought that would be a useful way to add just a little bit of extra support. And by far the easiest way to fit these uprights is to use a pocket hole jig and then to pre-drill the holes top and bottom, nice and tidy, and then just make sure I've got the correct size screws so that I'm not driving through the timber and into the caravan floor. Now, I'm not going to screw any of this stuff into the body of the caravan itself. Most of it will be friction fit, and then I just need to put 1 screw in where my framework meets the underbed framework, the existing bed frame here. So 2 screws at each side, so 4 in total. That will keep the weight down as well by not using too many screws. So that's the couple of verticals in on the back, so you can see that the windbreak is in there in the sort of khaki soft bag, and then there's a beige bag with some mud gripper mats in and a black tube with the Saberlink lights in. So that all sits in there nicely out of the way for the odd occasion that we do need it. Now the next thing I'm going to do is pop in a few more bits of timber just to protect the tank here, because once everything's in a big drawer, I don't want it sliding into the tank, because I guess that's one of the concerns I have in such a huge open space with all sorts of stuff in here. Okay, it's not heavy stuff, but being on the back of the caravan, it will wiggle around a bit, and I don't want anything bashing any of the pipe work and possibly helping to loosen it all. We certainly do not want to spring a leak in our water tank. Now, it travels empty, of course, but you know, I don't tend to inspect it before I fill it up, because the fill hatch is on the outside, and I certainly don't want to put 45 litres of water in here and then later find out that one of my pipes is burst or split or somehow. So a couple more bits of timber just to protect this area, and also to protect the plastic dome on the vent cover that you saw in the back corner earlier. And here we go. Here is the lightest weight framework I think I can get away with. So this is 19 by 25 mil, just ordinary white strip woods. Plain smooth, obviously, so I didn't have to do too much for that, just a little bit of tidying up with a bit of sandpaper. And I reckon, I haven't weighed it exactly, I reckon this is probably added about 2 kilos, if that. It's incredibly lightweight. Obviously it won't take the weight of a person stood on it, but within this configuration seems pretty good, but time will tell, of course. And then here's what it looks like with the bed down and the door opens. So you can see just in the dark here, and of course I've put a couple of stops in front of the vent and in front of the tank to stop anything sliding into it. So those should be much better protected than they were before this whole project started. Now, the next thing to try and do, of course, is to make the drawers themselves. And the idea is to have one on the right that is shorter front to back, because of course the tank's there, but slightly wider, and then quite a long thin one that goes right the way across on the left side here. So that's the next thing, and we will need to go to the garage to get that done, I think. But apparently if you want to do caravan projects, the first thing you need to do is shift Roman shields being made for school out of the way. So let's do that first. So the approach I'm going for here is, rather than having a solid drawer, which would weigh an absolute ton, well, maybe not a whole ton, but it will weigh an awful lot, I'm going to make a skeleton framework from the same sort of strip wood that I've used in the caravan itself. And then over that skeleton framework, I'm going to clad it with some of the Corex plastic board that I use for the kitchen cupboard tidy. There's a video on the channel, and I'll link to that above. And I'm going to try it like this because all the materials are super lightweight, so that will give me a huge container which will hopefully be strong enough, you know, not really strong, but hopefully strong enough for the lightweight that I want to put in it. But also I'm going to clad it on the outside, and that should mean that the plastic, the Corex board itself, should allow the tray, the drawer, to slide along that wooden framework, to slide it into place rather than being fixed with any particular runners. Hopefully that will work. And the chairs themselves are these moon chairs, so when these things fold up, they fold up really tall but then quite slim all around, so they fold into a sort of giant sausage shape, I guess you could say. And that means that once they're in the drawer themselves, their weight gets spread across quite a lot of that internal wooden framework, and so it's not necessary for the base of the drawer to be structurally rigid as if you would have in a normal drawer. That's the theory anyway. Let's see if it works out. Alright, so let's give this a go. Well, I've got just the framework and the glue's gone off here just to check it fits, because the height inside is a little bit different from the door, and there's a couple of steps involved, so I just want to give it a go before I think about putting any cladding over the top.
That's going to go where this GoPro is.
Yes, right. Do excuse my little helper. You guys are on the GoPro, which is literally on the fence, which means there's not enough room to actually get this drawer to slide in properly perpendicularly. And little one doesn't seem to have realised he's got his arm in front of the camera. Very helpful indeed.
Cool. Very tight. Should I go in there and open up the top bed? I'm going to have to sand it. This is far too tight.
Now this channel is all about keeping it real. I show you the bad stuff as well as the good stuff, and indeed I did cock my heights up completely. Goodness knows what I was doing when I was measuring first, so it's back into the garage to take a couple of centimetres off the top of this box. So technically it's just about the right size, but by the time the wood's swollen and contracted and stuff, it's going to be terribly tight and not work very well at all. So a couple of centimetres off the top just to help it ease much more smoothly into that slot that's been made in the framework. Okay, it's the next day and test fit number 2. And yep, much better. Okay, great. So just double check that. Great, so that works. And now to double and triple check this time the measurements for the less steep, because the water tank at the other end, but the wider one on this right hand side here. Then it's the same basic procedure as for the left hand side, but I'm going to put a few more cross braces into this one because it's wider and I don't want the top edges sort of splaying out because of that extra width. And then it's test fit time again. Woohoo! They fit! One thing I did notice when I was manoeuvring this longer, thinner one around was that it felt a little bit too flimsy, so I think it's worth the few extra cross beams. So I mean, that's, you know, 100 grams, a couple hundred grams if that, so definitely worth a couple of extra cross beams in the base to make sure that stays nice and strong down there. Now then, clean the work surface up, make sure there's no muck left behind, and it's on with the super lightweight cladding. This stuff isn't in any way structural, it's just here to stop any blankets or anything like that flopping out of the boxes and then getting stuck. You know, it's just to keep everything tidy and all together. And then of course if the chairs are muddy on their feet or anything like that, it will stop the mud from spreading around under the entire storage area here at the bottom of the caravan as well. It'll just keep the mud off of everything else. So I'm securing this Corex board with a staple gun, and then the small ends are doubled up because that's just the neatest way of doing it. And this stuff is super easy to cut with a knife or with scissors, and as you'll see from the printing on it, it's fire resistant and available from lots of different builders' yards. So it's usually the sort of stuff that builders or people renovating office buildings or something cover up the floor with, so it's protective while they're knocking down walls and plastering and all the rest of it. So that's what this stuff's usually used for. So I'm using the thin 2mm stuff, but if you had a smaller locker, then you could probably do something similar, possibly even without the wooden framework, with say the 4mm or the 5mm version. We've used that as well. We made a guinea pig house for our little guinea pigs so they could live in the kitchen with us in the winter. They're lovely chatty little things they were. We missed them terribly. Anyway, we made them a lovely little bespoke house that fitted perfectly on a big spare worktop space we had. And that stuff was really good as well. So, you know, super good for guinea pig cages because you can make it perfectly watertight enough. And we used the clear so they could sort of see people coming up to see them, and we had the front a little bit lower so they could stretch up and have a nosy out and have a chat with everyone if they wanted. Anyway, super cute. Right, quick little vacuum around to get rid of any wood chips that are left in here, and then we'll give these drawers a go. And success. Now just to get these chairs in. Now the proper way of finishing the video, of course, would be to show you with the trays set up themselves and all the chairs inside and properly sliding in and out. But of course I've managed to lose that bit of footage. Yeah, well done me. And unfortunately we've changed the chairs since I did that particular build, which means we changed the drawers as well. So I can't refilm that bit for you. Anyway, so I just have to give you the spoken summary, if you like. And it was really great having those boxes. It's much easier to get stuff organized, and it meant that things weren't getting pickled up with each other. And if I just wanted to get one or two things out, that was really great as well. When they had, on the downside, when they had a bit of weight in, particularly the longer one tended to just shift ever so slightly. So I found that putting a strip of just hardboard down the middle of the runners, so within the caravan itself, gave the box something to run over the top of, so smooth the process much more. Otherwise, this end was dipping down and getting caught on that end piece before it actually locked into position at the end where it should have been nice and level. But with that runner in, perfectly good. So that was really good. Anyway, sorry for losing the end bit of footage. Hope you enjoyed watching the build nevertheless, and it was great to have your company. So thanks for coming along. If you enjoyed the video, of course, give it a thumbs up, and I'd be super grateful actually if you'd share it, because I'm trying to expand the channel, obviously, and it would be great to have more people's company within the community. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. So bye for now. See ya.